very much. Thank you. Karibu, therefore, to all the delegates of this historic 2018 summit of the World Media Economics and Management Conference. Karibu is a Kiswahili word for a very warm welcome. The majestic city of Cape Town, Africa's mother city, stands ready to welcome you with this unique ambience of a mix of varied and rich cultures, food, languages, and landmark scenic places that mark it out as one of the world's best cities to visit in your lifetime. Even an act of God, such as a long-running drought, which this year has severely curtailed the use of water by the cities of you for choosing the city at the southernmost tip of Africa, where the Atlantic and the Indian Ocean waters serenely greet and kiss each other in a rare spectacle of everlasting human wonder. As the host of this, the 13th edition of the World Media Economics and Management Conference. This year's conference is historic in two specific ways. First, it is the first time that the top-level global gathering of the world's leading scholars and researchers of media business, of media management, of media economics, and of journalism and communications has come to the African shores in nearly 3 decades since the founding of the World Media Economics and Management Conference. Second, it is historic because of its timely and I hope bold intervention to critically examine and proffer workable solutions that are based on solid research evidence to counter one of humanity's greatest existential threats in what is supposed to be a more open and transparent digital and social age, but one which we see being closed down, monopolized, and dominated by a few technological platforms. Rasmus Nielsen and Sarah Ganter in their 2018 paper warned in a recently published paper focusing on the operations of what they call, in course, digital intermediaries, that these platforms are increasingly taking over control of the news media's editorial, communication channels, and other key levers globally, and are, to quote directly, reshaping how news is distributed and by extension, how it is produced and funded, unquote. Anchored in the extraction and selling of precious audiences' personal data to third parties, and in the creation of network effects, these opaque platforms are, in short, delivering greater audience reach to media houses, but many in the fourth estate are correctly worrying about the long-term impact of the closed networks which are being built, as well as the bigger revenues for media that emanate from this envisaged collaboration. In addition, and I quote here, we are, as individual, ordinary users, increasingly transparent to and monitored by these large technology companies that rely on, unquote, according to Nielsen and Ganter in their paper of 2018. And I'm sure that the case of Cambridge Analytica's use of personal information from Facebook for political ends is still fresh on the minds of all of us in this room today. This summit's challenge is simply this. Should humanity allow a triopoly of Google, Facebook, and Apple, and a few other global technological giants such as Alibaba to define who we are and our future? should humanity allow them to define our values and beliefs, to define our ethics and moral standards, and above all, to redefine what our centuries-old democracy should be, all in the name of hot likes, mentions, tweets, followers, and trending stories, which are posted on these platforms under the guise of the enlightenment of our globalized world. Should humanity in this brave 21st century allow these technologies to define and run virtually solo and almost with impunity and without any meaningful regulation, except for Europe's recent efforts of enacting the General Data Protection Regulation, which takes effect on May 25, a global platform economy that takes over the world of mainstream media and of hundreds of thousands of dedicated scribes who have for centuries provided humanity with mostly credible, high quality, and ethical journalism. Yes, the unfolding digital terrain enjoins mainstream media and their journalists to urgently reframe their role and place in a rapidly changing and discontinuous media ecosystem. They have to learn to live and thrive in what we call a new reality of permanent change, and to provide better, faster, more credible, and more diverse news content, which has more diverse voices to audiences who are today also co-producing news content as competitors. But journalism's central tenets of being fact and evidence-based, of holding the powerful and those who govern us accountable, of being a voice for the marginalized and others who suffer for the sins of their fathers, cannot and must not be sacrificed of business and become captured by the platforms. Many inside and outside the media industry keep asking this key question: is there any reason why media firms themselves cannot jointly launch their own Google-style or Facebook-type social network to harness the dividend of the digital era without creating walls that preclude the poor from accessing the news, which in the new information age is a basic human right? If this is not immediately feasible for strategic, if political reasons, perhaps governments should seriously consider that has been made by media analyst Nives. He's saying there's a need to create competing public platforms independent of state surveillance and are run as public utilities to compete with the platforms I mentioned earlier. At a minimalist level, SNISEC suggests, and I quote here that, quote, the state has the power to antitrust, break up monopolies. Local regulations can impede or even ban exploitative platforms. Government agencies can impose various controls, and coordinated avoidance can draw into public hands and thought. While there is much news known as these days, according as you most of you know, the BBC who wrote this report in 2015, and we are threatened by debilitating attention deficit disorder that might force some people to seek attention conservation zones. Perhaps in Mars, humanity desperately and urgently needs journalism that makes sense of the increasingly fluid, uncertain, ambiguous, and unstable world in which we live in. In short, journalism needs to go back to its basics. It justified its efforts in doing great investigative journalism, which offers audiences the highest quality of news content possible and exclusive news which the public can use because this news will be adding value and meaning to their lives. Yes, we need new and varied forms and formats of journalism that give audiences context, background, explanation, significance of the fast-paced events of our times, and solutions and explanations to these challenges. Journalism cannot and should not be just what media analysts such as Alfred Hemidia, and I think he's around, welcome Alfred, if you're around, have identified as quote ambient journalism, which focuses on creating audiences awareness about key issues, but solely lacks creating and cementing deeper human understanding, coherence, and insights of our increasingly more complex lives. And what we certainly do not need, and humanity's future largely depends on combating menace, is a restyled form of new propaganda, new misinformation, new disinformation that is being peddled by believers of alternative facts and all again, I call a post-truth world. God forbid that this generation, in the name of progress and enlightenment, should normalize outright lies, manipulation, and sheer madness by the making Joseph Goebbels of our time. It simply cannot be that, and I quote here, get better because they are getting well, unquote, as sarcastically noted by the media scholar James Curran in summarizing the views of some millennials on the future of journalism. Let me use this moment to thank all of the many people who have made this landmark conference a reality. Hundreds of people from across the world have made this conference possible. I want to gratefully thank and acknowledge the vital contribution that each one of you has generously offered. This brief note makes it impossible, however, for me to name all of you by name. However, my fuller speech, which we are hosting shortly on our live website on the Wmemc Economics and Management Conference, names all of those contributions I treasure and cherish. But I couldn't end this without paying tribute and my heartfelt thanks to my ever-tolerant and patient wife, Elizabeth, and my youngest daughter, Paul, for inspiring me to work each and every night at the expense of me giving them my full attention, love, and friendship in the past 2 years of frenetic planning for this conference. They are simply God's angels for all time. Finally, but not least, I want to thank all of you, our distinguished guests, for making tremendous sacrifices of time, money, and effort to grace us with your presence from far-flung countries and territories across the world at this truly historic World Media Economics and Management Conference. In Kiswahili, we say asante sana, meaning thank you very much for your unprecedented dedication and commitment to the cause of building up and nurturing a financially vibrant media and journalism, and thus defending our hard-won democracy, which we should not forget is never given forever. I thank you. At this time, time, it's my singular pleasure to call upon the one and only Professor Robert G. Pickard, the President and Chair of the World Media Economics and Management Conference. He doesn't need much introduction. He's the doyen of this field. All of us salute him, so I will be there for him to welcome him. Thank you.
So it's a pleasure to welcome you all to Cape Town and to the World Media Economics and Management Conference. As Francis noted, this 5th anniversary of the conference. And it's been extraordinarily important over that time in developing the field of media economics and management studies, but also in bringing together scholars from media, economics, management studies, business studies together to really focus work on the crucial issues in the field. And I think that one of the things that this conference has done better than many others is to bring that interdisciplinarity to our studies. The conference board and I are particularly happy because this is the first time the conference is being held in Africa. Over the history of the conference, we've held conferences on 5 of the 7 continents. We've not yet made Antarctica or Australia, but we'll probably get to one of those before but it's really to bring people together and learn from each other as we develop this field and continue to do so. The field of study has really grown remarkably since its inception and the inception of this conference that supported. And we believe now that it encompasses about 800 active scholars worldwide. And this is an important, I think, development of the field, and we see it particularly among the young people that many of us are tutoring and supervising in their development, because that's an extraordinarily important part of the development of the field. It's important also, not just because of scholars that the conference brings together, but because the opportunities that it brings together for scholars and practitioners to discuss some of the contemporary issues. And we'll be having some of those discussions in plenaries at this conference, and hope you will enjoy them. From its inception, the conference has been international and very inclusive, tried to be very enjoyable and very personal, as it tries to develop expertise and push economic and management knowledge and practice forward. And it has really worked to build bridges and collaboration among them. And so as we begin, I want you to just take a moment to greet those delegates behind you and in front of you. You usually know the people beside you, but please turn and say hello to the people there.
I feel like it's a church. I seem to be done in church.
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
Only we don't have to hold hands.
Yeah. They have a common vision. Look into what we're doing a social hour here.
Thank you for that.
Looking to serve. Right to serve.
Okay, well, I'm glad to see that everybody is enjoying that moment. It has actually been a philosophy of the conference and the conference organizers. That the social meetings of people, the tea breaks, the lunches, the receptions and things that go on are as important as what goes on in the paper presentations. Because that's where extraordinary collaborations have come together on all kinds of research, comparative research, challenging of research, trying to find out where the theories that were produced in Europe or North America work in Asia or work in Latin America, or if there are other explanations that are better to understand decision makings that are done in companies along the way. And that's come because of this people connecting with each other. It's our conference to try to promote that. I'm delighted that all of you have joined us, and I know you'll find it a stimulating and rewarding conference. The range and depth of the issues and topics discussed in the presentations and in the papers looks extraordinary, and I'm looking forward to that. Even as we begin, I do want to thank the organizers for the extraordinary efforts that they have made. I kept getting emails in the midst of the night and other times from the organizers, so I know when Francis said it was up in the evening work, he certainly was along the way. Normally to put on a conference like this, and we've always relied on local hosts. And the choice of Zoltach Institute and the University of Rhodes to do it has turned out to be very serendipitous. We will see the fruits of all of that work in the days to come. And I hope all of you enjoy the conference that they have prepared. We thank you for all your. Thank you, friend.
Thank you so much, Professor Robert Tipika. As you have seen, he's a man who has been doing this for many years. He takes it easy, makes you at ease. After many years, you do something for so long, you become as competent as he is now. It is my singular pleasure at this time to welcome the Deputy Vice Chancellor of Rhodes University, Dr. Peter Clayton. A big welcome for you, Peter.
Good morning, everybody. It's my great privilege to be able to welcome you on behalf of Rhodes University to this 13th conference and the first on our continent. And for us, it's a great privilege to be able to host the first time this conference has been held on our continent. So welcome to almost all of you to Cape Town, and welcome very many of you to South Africa. I think this conference comes at a very significant time, and the theme that you have chosen, the age of tech giants, is hugely significant to all of us, those of us in universities, in the industry, and private citizens as well. We all feel that change is brought on by social media, by the social media revolution, and we all benefit from it, and we are all threatened by it. And most of us don't understand it. And this was really strongly illustrated in that example that Francis already referred to, the Facebook example. 3 weeks ago, when Mark Zuckerberg testified before the US Senate joint hearing, if you would listen to that. Some of the senators' understanding was quite embarrassing, wasn't it? They were woefully tech illiterate. And here's the conundrum. Those are the leaders of what is often thought of as the most powerful democracy, interrogating something that is a huge threat to democracy. And they didn't know what was going on, or many of them didn't know what was going on. And it was a bit of a joke. The late night comedians really took them apart. That was kind of funny. But underneath that, it is very, very concerning. And I think this is not any different in most countries. Certainly, I don't think most of the leadership in our country who are in charge of regulating things like this understand the sector well at all. What it needs is research, it needs scholarship, it needs thought leadership from people who understand what's going on, and actually that's you, all the people in this room. Your work is badly needed. Francis also mentioned the new European law called the General Data Protection Regulation, which looks like it might be the biggest overhaul of online privacy since the birth of the internet, giving Europeans the right to know what data is stored on them and the right to have it deleted. But you will know better than most how hard that's going to be to implement, if it's indeed implementable at all. So there are hard problems facing media management, and I'm delighted to see some of the themes of this conference speaking directly to this. The role of big media companies, of course, the whole theme of the conference, and big data. The power of algorithmics, able to do little things, but at massive scale, makes a huge difference. The new challenges to media and journalism ethics, the increasingly acceptable practice, almost socially acceptable practice of fake news, the disruption of the traditional media industry worldwide, that thing that we often call a pillar of democracy. And these spell more financial upheavals for the sector, of course, and they urgently call for new and novel solutions, as you've outlined in the four papers for this conference. So many of you might have picked up in the media that South Africa's universities are having huge upheavals with student protests, and a significant element of this was wage, and the mainline media was battling to keep up. They were really left behind. But part of that social media was the full range of fake news, cyberbullying, anonymous trolling, all of that stuff, along, of course, with some very useful information. And it strikes me that universities have been one of the most stable institutions in human civilization. They've survived wars and plagues, kinds of totally rattled now by technology. And I think the same can be said for the traditional media. Survived all kinds of things, but really being rattled by technology. About the way we create, manage, and transfer and apply knowledge. So they should go together well. ICT, that all sounds fantastic. No agree possibilities. And the other theme that is another roller coaster ride. An example very close to us in South Africa is Naspers, a very staid South African media company that has become a global player by buying a 34% stake to online giant Tencent Holdings and become a huge mega industry as a result. And to return to Francis' example of Facebook, I thought that one of the most interesting things about the US Senate hearings was that Facebook lost nearly $50 billion in market capitalization after the Cambridge Analytica scandal. But after Mark Zuckerberg came out largely unscathed from that hearing, they added back another $20 billion to the market capitalization. That is a roller coaster ride if you've ever seen one. That's massive sums of money. And the thing that's interesting, I thought, was that many of the analysts were saying, the market is making some sort of moral judgment on Facebook. But of course, as soon as it looked like they weren't going to get caught, it was saying, we're back in. So that's something that really needs a lot of analysis. So, in short, I'm really glad that you are having this meeting amidst this context, and we are all hoping that you will add some understanding to these kinds of things that we're all worried about. Before I sit down, let me tell you something about Rhodes University. We're a small university, about 8,000 students, research-led in the Eastern Cape, which is up the coast, about halfway between where we are now in Cape Town and Durban, the other big city along the coast. And you're all invited to visit us when you get the opportunity. About a third of our students are postgrads, 1/3 undergrads, 2/3, about 20% at least, are international students. That is our character. Of interest, perhaps, to this particular conference is that the internet was pioneered into Southern Africa through this university in the early 90s. And it was the landing spot for a number of years in the 90s of all internet traffic into sub-Saharan Africa. And that influenced quite a lot of the technological stuff that happens at the university in terms of the areas of research, and media, of course, is one of those. One of our defining characteristics is our School of Journalism and Media Studies. We believe it's the preeminent school of its kind on the African continent, housed in a very modern building, the African Media Matrix, which has a really sophisticated array of facilities, including television, photography, radio studios, editing suites, and newsroom environments and new media labs. And this school includes a number of high-profile projects and entities. This is the one that Francis leads, the Sol Plaatje Institute for Media Leadership. This was the brainchild of the head of Journalism and Media Studies in the 90s and going into the 2000s, Professor Guy Berger, who again, I'm sure is known to many of you. And he put this into play specifically to address what he saw as a need for media management leadership on the African continent. And I think the Institute was probably only 18 months or so old when Francis was recruited to be the director, and has taken it from something very modest to something that has made a huge contribution, training something like 6 scientists from across the country. That's Francis's work. The name Sol Plaatje was taken from one of South Africa's great human rights journalists. Sol Plaatje lived from 1876 to 1932. And he's a noted South African intellectual journalist, linguist, politician, translator, and writer. He is also noted in his political and activist role as one of the founder members of what is known as he was actually the general secretary of this organization, the South African Native National Congress. And that was formed in 1912 and morphed over a number of years into what is now known as the African National Congress, which is the main political party in this country, the governing political party in this country. So he was a huge influence in how South Africa turned out from over 100 years ago. He was fluent in 7 languages, and he translated some of the works of William Shakespeare into Tswana, which is his home language. And he's known as the first black South African to publish a novel in English. His talent for language led him to a career in journalism writing, and of significance to this conference, he was the editor and part owner of 3 local newspapers. And so I think if he was here, he would be able to make some sort of contribution to your deliberation. So just to let you know where that name came from, that you see. So let me end by thanking all my colleagues. Francis has already thanked them. All my colleagues from Rhodes for the great work they've done in bringing you all here. Francis, of course, didn't thank himself, and really he's made huge sacrifices. He mentioned those, I wrote this down, God's angels for all time. I'm going to use that again, Francis. I think that's beautiful. So Elizabeth and Paul have clearly made sacrifices, but nobody's made more sacrifices than you, Francis. And I just want to acknowledge that, and thank you very much for the hard work that you've done. Yeah, please. I also want to acknowledge and thank our co-sponsors of this event, Business Arts South Africa and the City of Cape Town. And with that, I wish you all a very productive conference, and I anticipate that it will be to the benefit of all words. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for those kind words. Very kind, and that's that deserved word. Thank you. We now move on then to our keynote speaker of this morning, Professor Sylvia Chan Olmsted of the Department of Telecommunications, and who is also the Director of Media Consumer Research at the University of Ghana. This session is supposed to be chaired by said, welcome and thank you.
Dear friends, our first keynote is going to address the main theme of this conference, media management in the age of tech giants. The intervention in the media market by global technological giants like Google, Facebook, and Apple has deepened and accelerated traditional media's existed financial and economic crisis. In recent years, several leading media firms around the world have willfully handed over their content to the tech giants to seek what has been promised as greater and faster distribution of their content to audiences and increased revenue by these new frenemies. Dr. Sylvia Chan Olmsted will be comparing and discussing the relationship between media and tech firms from the perspective of value chain, strategy, competition, and society. Dr. Chan Olmsted is the Director of Media Consumer Research at the University of Florida. As a professor, she also teaches brand management, consumer and audience analytics, and media management. Her research expertise includes digital and mobile media consumptions, branding, and strategic management in emerging media and communication industries. She has conducted the consumer research for Google, Nielsen, Huffington Post, Twitter, Bertelsmann, and many others. And she is the recipient of over 20 national and international research awards, including the 2014 Award of Honor presented by the Journal of Media Economics for scholarly contributions to the field. Today, the title of our presentation is Media in the Age of Tech Giants, Collaboration and Competition. Please welcome Dr. Sylvia Chan Olmsted.
Hope you can see my face. Thank you. And thank you, Heidi, Francis, the Institute, and Rose University for hosting us in this beautiful city. And I agree, this is one of the best cities in the world. And it was worth it. Yeah, okay. I'm looking for it. After me, you guys will all have a smooth transition. Okay, thank you. Okay, great. Okay. When we try to untangle this complex and dynamic relationship between media and technology, the first step we should do is probably to take a look at what media really means in today's tech-driven society. So, what is media? The biggest observation I have over the last few years as a researcher and what we study but also what our students are aspiring to do. Many of my students do not think about working in the media industry simply means working for newspaper or television industry. In fact, they're looking at all kinds of industries for media-related positions. It seems to be that the traditional definition of media has as platforms and communication channels is focusing on the wrong thing. I was talking to a group of radio station managers, and the question they kept asking was, how do I get the millennials to come back to our platform again? The fact is media is not about media anymore. Media is life. Media is about problem solving, social connection, entertainment, information, and so on. The decision is about how does a media outlet fit into the consumer's life today. So the question for media managers today should be, how does my media outlet earn a spot in my target audience's lives? And how does it fit in their media repertoire in various life contexts? We are at a time of change, a time when tech giants are maturing and entering the mainstream media space, while the media sectors are trying to reinvent themselves to be more relevant, to earn a spot in the consumer's life through the use of technology. The goal of my speech today is to touch on this dynamic relationship between the media and tech sectors in three aspects. First, I will look at the parameters of this intersection through the discussions on the recent changes in media value chain and the new rules of competition. I will also take a look at this tech media convergence at a more strategic level by reviewing some strategies of the tech giants in the media space. Finally, I will take a look at the growing pain that the tech giants are facing today as they are in now the more mainstream media space, and how might media and tech balance the various challenges. Because I am an optimist, and I have very limited expertise in policy studies, I will approach my presentation from a more strategic perspective. And I do believe the two are not mutually exclusive. So, traditionally, the media value chain flowed in a linear, predictable pattern from creation, aggregation, distribution to the end access point, the consumer device interface. As you know, the digital era, the evolving value chain is no longer linear. In fact, it's now a multi-directional value system. In the old way, companies create product or service containing value, and later this value is exchanged from companies to consumers. Now consumers have increasing influence over media contents and their creation, production, and distribution. So in the new value system, consumers' role has changed. Just a quick example, YouTube has over 400 hours of video uploaded by users every minute. In a co-creation environment, the line between consumers and producers is blurry. Consumers began to play a critical role in the system for value creation. The multi-directional system also means that the process from creation to consumption becomes much more dynamic, complex, and uncertain. It is important to point out that the change from value creation to value co-creation fundamentally altered the relationship between the audience and media. Co-creation produces content and experiences that are not only meaningful to individuals, but also generating value to businesses. High quality interactions that enable consumers to co-create unique experiences with the media are means to develop sources of competitive advantage. So what does this mean? It means that there are new requirements for media companies to develop competencies in cultivating and managing the co-creation process with the audiences. Today's media companies can derive value from their audiences in addition to the conventional means of generating advertising and subscription revenues. Yes, audiences deliver revenues through advertising and subscription. They also offer this intangible value of networks and insights that are very important today. In an uncertain and complex market, we need deep knowledge of audiences' attributes, behavioral patterns, and this knowledge is a source of value for both media companies and in the advertising model of advertisers. It is no longer sufficient for media companies to produce and sell target segments to advertisers. In this new digital economy, media companies also need to garner audience insights, and so the negative consequences that come with it, using appropriate tools and know-how, and use the intelligence to improve the market and their products. They are now the knowledge partners. As you can see here, vertically integrated audience insights derived from the delivery of attractive content to audiences can now create value in marketing, in brand engagement on behalf of the advertisers and for the media brands themselves. So what have changed from the perspective of competition? To summarize, there is more demand for content creation, including both mass appeal content and long-tail content. There is also more reliance on audience insights. The tech companies are changing how media products are produced and evaluated. Now there is a more direct connection with the consumers. The tech companies enable the content creator to build direct relationships with the consumers. The intersect of tech and media also means more access points in consumers' journey through multimedia devices, social media, and online communities. And in all of these, consumers are having more control in how they want media to come into their lives. So you have to engage them intelligently, knowing that attention is premium in the new economy. Let's move into the more micro-strategic aspects. Let's look at how the tech giants have entered the media space. Here I'll focus on two leading content space, news and entertainment. I will also look at mostly the big four, Facebook, Google, Amazon, and Apple. Again, please forgive me for focusing on the US market because of my limited knowledge in other parts of the world. This is a very North American-centric presentation, and for that I really apologize. So, strategies in the news space. Yes, let's talk about Facebook. So 45% of all US adults and 68% of Facebook users get news from this site. Again, I'll focus on more the strategy aspect instead of the policy implications because we have many more people with expertise in that space and a more strategic management study. And I hope I can share some of the things that I've observed here with you. So Facebook has a significant role in aggregating and distributing news. One of the most significant strategies in the news space is Facebook's implementation of the instant articles in 2015. Instant articles offers fast-loading native pages from publishers without leaving the Facebook platform. The strategy from the Facebook perspective is about offering its readers a better user experience with easy access to various content sources. Of course, at the same time, they make sure that they are now the sit-down news restaurants without a takeout counter or even the cook. Another key strategy is to integrate socialization, engagement, and content consumption. In addition to the trending news functionality, Facebook now shifted its focus to posts that users are most likely to engage with, which means posts from friends and family. This, of course, has a lot of implications for publishers. In terms of a content format and approach, Facebook has been growing its video news content. It was reported that Facebook has set aside $90 million budget to have partners develop original news programming to be the breaking news destination like an online competitor to cable news. Of course, many publishers are now again trying to pivot into the video news space because of this video emphasis. More recently, Facebook is looking into local news angle. They're testing a new area of this app called Today In, a mix of city-specific events, announcements, and local news. So this is a new local community building strategy that moves away from a pure algorithm focus to some human content curation. And that's important. We're going to talk about human and artificial intelligence balance later. The local emphasis might offer some value exchange with local publishers around their hosted content initiatives, but it's really too early to tell. This brings us to Facebook's last strategy in incorporating human moderation in a machine environment. Facebook is learning that it needs human intervention. It is using human in local news and content curation, and is doubling its content reviewers to about 20,000 people. They have realized that machines need human babysitters. Google launched in 2017. Google Feed is the personalized stream of news, articles, videos, and our content underneath the search bar in the Google app. Google Feed is customized to users based on their search history, visit history, and topics they choose to follow. So Google focuses on algorithm-centric personalization, and it's available over 70 regions. You can browse top news stories around the world by switching regions. Google News also features a local section. Users can find local news. So the strategy is really to produce a global reach with local options. It is clear that Google has different relationship with publishers than its Facebook counterpart. It has often stated that having quality publishers that have a sustainable business model is important to Google. In fact, the relational differences between Facebook and publisher and Google and its publisher can be seen by their differences in their mission statements. Facebook is about giving people the power to build community. And you can see what the role would be about quality content. It is not quite directly related to this. But Google is about building an informed world, which directly means it might be quality journalism and content. In terms of the entertainment content space, all four major tech companies have ramped up their speed in the past year to grow their capacity to compete in streaming video. They have different approaches, however. Facebook, for example, Facebook as a creator and distributor of original and exclusive video content via its Watch platform. They have video content distributed by them exclusively. They are getting into original content production. They have live videos, even from Major League baseball. They have less expensive short form, like a 5-minute video series. They have video series with running time similar to shows on cable TV. Their strategies are to offer middle-of-the-road original content, provide semi-professional content that is higher end than YouTube, but not competing with the professional producers like Netflix and HBO. Again, of course, based on their core competency, they've emphasized social connection, personalization, with categories like what my friends are watching, more talked about, popular now, and they have the advertising sponsorship model. It inserts ads within the watch videos and share revenues with the creator. Google has 2 video ecosystems, Google Play and YouTube. More and more, it's also producing original content through YouTube Red. It's a paid streaming subscription service. It's funding more than 40 original shows and movies in 2018. They are also building communities where users are engaged with creators and other users. So Google is utilizing multiple revenue models, transaction through Google Play, subscription through YouTube Red, and advertising through YouTube. With Prime Video, Amazon is an active player in the entertainment space. Its strategies include first investing in creating high-quality original content. Amazon Studios spent an estimated $4.5 billion on content in 2017. That's twice the HBO budget. Amazon now focuses on creating very high-profile series with the purchase of the right to the Lord of the Rings. Because of its robust peer evaluation platform, Amazon is an expert in garnering crowd knowledge. For example, Amazon Studio has an open submission policy, meaning it will accept stories from people of all levels of experience. It also crowdsources feedback from consumers on stories that have been selected. They also incorporate the ultimate video engagement gaming by acquiring Twitch Interactive, which has more than 15 million daily active users. By integrating Prime Video, Twitch, and Prime membership, Amazon is creating an integrated subscription model that should reduce churn rates, even with incremental rate hikes. I think they're about to have another rate increase. So, moving to specific research projects to illustrate the influence of tech giants in the media sector. Specifically, their competitive advantage as they enter the media space, I would like to share with you a study we recently completed. And thanks to the funding from Korea Research Foundation and support of Dr. Wmemc Chan's research group, we recently completed a study on the brand effects of tech giants in the streaming video space from a brand extension perspective. So we studied 2 groups of brands, existing brands, which consumers are more familiar with, and upcoming brands, which consumers are less familiar with in terms of the extended video brands. So we have Google, which owns YouTube, Amazon, and it's Amazon Prime. They were selected as the existing tech parent and extended video brands. And we have Facebook and its watch platform, and Apple and its less well-known, that's known, Apple TV. They were selected as upcoming tech parent and extended video brands. So 6 variables measuring consumers' perception or attitudes regarding parent brands were examined. Their familiarity, evaluation, attitude, loyalty, brand reputation, trust, and brand extension profile perception of the parent brands. 3 dependent variables regarding extended brands' success were examined. Intention to use and willingness to pay. In an online survey of 1,400 adults in the U.S., was conducted in the spring of this year, and we have some preliminary results. Regarding the dependent variable evaluation or attitude toward extended streaming video brands, for the more established brands, we found that familiarity, attitude, loyalty, and perceived reputation of the tech brands significantly affect the evaluation toward the extended video brands. As for the upcoming brands, trust, attitude, and perceived reputation of the tech brands significantly predict the respondents' evaluation of the extended video brands. It is evident that the tech giants are in a good position to expand into the video media space. In terms of intention to use the extended video brands, loyalty and brand extension profile perception, which means to what degree do the respondents think the parent brands have too many extended brands. These were significant for both brand groups. In addition, trust was significant for upcoming brands. As you can see, loyalty and trust for tech brands go a long way. It is important to note that these tech brands are very present in the consumer's lives and have ample opportunities to build loyalty and trust. Regarding the last dependent variable, willingness to pay, loyalty and trust were significant for both groups. Extension profile perception was significant for existing brands, and attitude was significant for upcoming brands. Again, loyalty and trust of the tech brands carry a lot of weight in new revenue potentials. We also looked at the feedback loop of the brand extension effect, that is the impact of extended brand on the parent brands. I don't have time to go over, but if you're interested, I'll be happy to talk to you. So which sector, tech or media, might be ahead of the other with the new value creation system and the new rules of competition? I'm going to borrow a framework that captures the key areas of value creation in today's digital environment. It's in a chapter that I wrote recently. And here I think it's a great framework to make some comparison. So here, the new business models and value propositions, this one, I think that it really rests in 6 areas with consumers in the center of the value creation, surrounded by community, content, commerce, context, and connection. We'll talk about each of the areas. In terms of the consumer aspect, from the consumer angle, the tech giants have an edge over media in garnering audience insights, in managing user content, and utilizing crowdsourcing mechanisms. However, media companies have more a holistic and historical relationship with the audience. This more qualitative, intuitive understanding of the audience cannot be underestimated. It's like comfort food. You want to be healthy, you want to eat salad, but sometimes you just want simple comfort food. Content. From the content angle, while tech giants have more user experience and engagement expertise, media companies have had years of experience producing content, and they have access to talent in the area. Tech companies do not create news content themselves, and there was very limited production in their sphere. And they are only learning to invest in high quality, high profile content. Until more high-profile content is produced and or migrated to the OTT space, media has a slight upper hand here. Commerce. With the capacity and infrastructure for commerce implementation, tech companies are ahead in this area. Context. This is an interesting area. Media companies are able to provide more integrated, controlled, and consistent content within the context. They also provide more kind of lean back context and safer editorial context in today's environment. Tech companies can offer micro context and relevancy, but I would like to raise an issue about brand safety. It's now a big concern of advertisers. At this time, media are still doing a better job in offering comprehensive, comfortable, but controlled context. Connection, given the multi-screen trend and the growth of Internet of Things, the tech giants are enhancing consumers' connection across devices. They are also connecting users with their friends and other users to increase their connection with the company's products. And tech firms probably have a competitive edge. While tech companies can build on consumer, commerce, connection, and community. It's important to note that because the core value of media business is still the content for audience and context for audience and advertisers, media still has a slight advantage over tech, but it is of course changing and is very likely generational at this point. Finally, let's move our attention to the bigger picture, the social impacts of tech giants' entrance into the media space. I think it's fair to look at these two photos and see the symbolic growth of Facebook from this young, innocent, exciting teenager to today's adult in a suit, and realizing that he too has responsibilities to the family as he becomes a contributing member of the family, of the society. Mr. Zuckerberg actually stated this realization at the hearing, saying that Facebook didn't take a broad enough view of its responsibilities. Let's look at it this way. The social impacts and responsibilities of the tech giants is part of its growing pain. We are talking about a 13-year-old. Okay, you all have 13-year-old kids. They are learning. The world is complicated, and they don't go the way you want it to go. The media industry has historically been associated with public interest, and they have learned to follow a lot of rules and expectations. Tech giants, which were typically founded and guided by engineers rather than the content creators, they are not used to this parameter. The public trust, responsibilities, they thought technology would solve all problems. These responsibilities manifest, and I would like to mention this, not only in the public domain, but also in businesses. The tech giants are responsible also for providing better environments and greater control to advertisers who spend a lot of money on their sites. This is where brand safety issues come in. In the past year, social networks and search engines have been blamed for undermining the news media, fostering echo chambers, spreading misinformation. In fact, a recent survey of 6,300 IT executives found that a critical component to the way tech companies do business moving forward is centered around social responsibility and building trust with the general public. In another survey, over 80% of CMOs stated that they are very concerned about brand safety issues. So tech firms' growth stage is over, is now entering the trust-building maturity stage. The issue of brand safety and tech giants' attempt to better manage their editorial role as a member of the society highlighted this tug between human intelligence and artificial intelligence. In the past, the tech companies rely heavily, if not purely, on algorithms. However, in recent years, criticisms regarding algorithm bias and problems are getting louder. The tech giants have to learn how to keep a balance between human and artificial intelligence. So this intersection of media and tech giants is about the old legacy media trying to reinvent themselves, to take advantage of the new value system, to learn to be better at connecting, at building community, at understanding consumers. While the tech giants are trying to learn to be individualized mass media, to deliver better content in the right context. Today, the old media are getting newer because they are less regulated, able to connect with audience and garner more audience feedback, even allow for co-creation and enter the multi-platform space to engage their audience. On the other hand, the new tech media are getting older because they are learning to self-police, to provide a more controlled and quality environment to humanize their processes, basically to enter the media space more like the traditional media. So in summary, for both media and tech companies, the magic is in the balancing of quality, quantity, context, and responsibilities. Specifically, the balancing of the integrated measures for quantity, control and development of quality environment, an intelligent mix of context and responsibilities of being a member of the society. That's my presentation. I want to thank my research assistant, Ms. Zhang Wang, to help me with the research for this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your presentation and for sharing your insight with us. We do take the tea breaks really serious in this conference, like Robert said, but I think we can manage a couple of questions if there are any. Please stand by the microphone. If not, let's do tea. Thank you.
It's cold in here. I thought I'd go to Africa and now that's cold. So yeah. You don't have to go to Antarctica as a seventh continent, you know. We've had that experience now. It's also a matter of getting used to it because the Americans can see aircon on, you know. I'm not sure the color of the skin or it's terrible that even though it's but it has to help that.
Thank you.
It's good. Yes.
Either one of them. Yeah.
Very successful. I'm not quite sure actually. I'm not
Okay. Yes, ma'am. I need to follow the guys. He has a time and has a microphone. If I could talk to you. Yeah, good. I will try that.
Try it down again. Yeah, I probably. Do we know roughly how many episodes you think we get on the table?
But it's also here, it's contagious. So let's say there's a message very close to there, and then after about this time, we have another session people at home.
Set up like that?
Yeah, the same thing from the end of the day. And then it's a continuous way to save more money.
Just in France? And then this is the what the message for
Yeah, so yeah, there's the same thing. Yeah. So it's going on like
Yes, yes, definitely.
and maybe two or four miles. I don't know.
We only have the mics that are on the track.
Which are here flash. So maybe the same sort. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
You know that?
No, on the phone. Facebook.
Well, he has just arrived, so give me some the big yeah, that's where they many people yeah, but you can please proceed now. You know, I think you just go out, like I mean, where they have this, yeah, and he's sharing one of the yeah, very good. If the question is, do you know we have been trying to actually not to we've been communicating through we have what we call a conference update which we give. But I think you are so right. Maybe we need to restate that. I'll let you look into that. I'll let you do that. I want you to be at the front section. You can do a front and just say if we try to try. Why would you not? So it is No, no, I was just sorting this thing because these tables for the plenary, they needed to sort it out. These are things which I may not need. Sorry?
On which side would you like to pitch?
Well, just there, where this stage is, and sorry, the stage cannot come out. Or we keep it there. Yeah, okay, keep it there, maybe keep it, then the table. Yeah, okay, use that side as well. Then you need about 5 chairs or so.
Oh, we can have a chair on the stage.
For the chairpersons. Yeah, okay, then we have 4 of them. Yeah, very good. We'll have a chair here, then 4 of them. Okay. Sorry? Yeah, no, it's just that we think that you don't have to engine because you don't have to correct. Sorry? But I mean, so I had to contact this lady to provide this because it wasn't available. And if I didn't do it, it wouldn't be done. You understand? Yeah, well, yeah, I'm ready and willing. Now I can hear the problem. Clearly. Okay. Yeah, so, no, I mean, it's for real. Let's see.
Now it's TV minutes to research them.
Now, during tea or after right now. Yeah, SMS, yeah. I'll let us know.
No, I want to.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Just want to
Yeah.
want to media companies.
Yeah.
I just want
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay.
So these are defenders.
And you could probably I'm not getting
Anyway, I was supposed to talk to you.